Is answering one of the big questions of this political year.
We'll have early reaction to Clinton's soon-to-be-announced running mate. Welcome to NewsHour. I'm Bobbie Battista in Atlanta.
And I'm Reid Collins in Washington. Well, the man with the lock on next week's Democratic Party's presidential nomination is naming his running mate to be today, Senator Albert Gore. Gore left his home state of Tennessee earlier today, bound for Little Rock, Arkansas, where Governor Clinton's to make the formal announcement in the next hour. More on Gore now from CNN's Deborah Potter.
The junior senator from Tennessee may be young, just 44 years old, but Al Gore has experience in both policy and politics.
That's great. Well done.
While he's no stem winder on the stump, Gore is a tested campaigner who ran for the Democratic presidential nomination in 1988. His appeal, however, did not extend beyond his native South, and he dropped out after the New York primary. In his 16 years in Congress, the last 8 in the Senate, Gore has compiled a generally liberal record with some notable exceptions.
The hope of peace remains in my heart and the hearts of us all. But this debate is now about war.
Gore was one of only 10 Democrats to break with the party and approve the use of force in the Persian Gulf. An Army veteran who served in Vietnam, he now sits on the Senate Armed Services Committee. Gore also has a strong record on family values. His wife Tipper campaigned for warning labels on rock albums with graphic lyrics. And Gore said his family is a major reason he decided not to run for president this year. Gore could become the only vice presidential candidate ever to hit the bestseller list. The theme of his book, The Environment, has been Gore's major focus in the Senate.
I believe that the task of saving the Earth's environment will become the central organizing principle for the post-Cold War world.
Gore's credentials both bolster and reinforce Clinton's. He is pro-abortion rights, a co-sponsor of the Freedom of Choice Act in the Senate. One potential liability for Gore, his close connections to Washington. Aside from a few years in Tennessee as a reporter, Gore has spent most of his life here, where he was born and raised, the son of a 3-term senator. In this year of the political outsider, Al Gore is anything but. Deborah Potter, CNN, Washington.
And CNN is planning live coverage of the Clinton News Conference in Little Rock less than an hour from now at 1 p.m. Eastern Time.
Well, there's no reaction yet from President Bush on the selection of Al Gore as Bill Clinton's running mate. Bush is in Helsinki, Finland, attending the Conference on Security and Cooperation in Europe. He declined to comment on the Clinton-Gore team when questioned by reporters about it. But Secretary of State James Baker, who managed Mr. Bush's 1988 campaign, reacted with this lighthearted comment.
I know Al Gore, and I know him very well, and his wife, of course, and my wife are very close friends, and I would characterize Al Gore as a friend of mine. And having said that, I can only wish him the worst possible luck in his new endeavors.
President Bush's current campaign manager, Fred Malek, says Gore makes up for Clinton's weaknesses while moving the Democratic ticket farther to the left, and he calls that good news for the Republicans. Democrat Jesse Jackson calls the Clinton-Gore matchup a fairly narrow ticket, and he questions whether a team of Southern moderates can win the support of the labor movement. Jackson says it takes 2 wings to fly, and here you have 2 of the same wing. Congressman Lee Hamilton of Indiana, who was on Clinton's short list of potential running mates, says he thinks Gore is a marvelous choice and says he's a superb senator. I think it will be a very strong ticket, and I will support it. Michael Dukakis's 1988 campaign manager, Susan Estrich, says, if you're looking for someone who can draw the contrast very well with Dan Quayle, I think you've got it in Al Gore. I mean, he proves you can be good-looking and smart at the same time. And undeclared presidential candidate Ross Perot says he's not ready to talk about the Clinton-Gore combo yet.
Well, one of the questions Democrats on Capitol Hill are posing in this election year is, did the Bush administration help Iraq build up its war machine just before the Gulf War, and in so doing, act criminally? Democrats on the House Judiciary Committee are requesting that the Attorney General appoint an independent counsel to investigate. At issue are some calls made in 1989 by a White House aide to the prosecutor in Atlanta investigating suspicious bank transfers by Iraq, and the evidence the administration had approved a $1 billion loan guarantee to Baghdad in that same year, despite indications that other money had been used to buy weapons rather than food.
Our investigation and our request are not an attempt to second-guess the administration's policy in tilting toward Iraq. The stupidity of that policy speaks for itself, and even the President has acknowledged that it was an utter failure. What we are concerned about is the possibility that high administration officials, in their zeal to carry out this policy and then to keep it from being exposed, may have broken the law.
Brooks insists this probe's not politically motivated. He says an independent counsel with powers to subpoena witnesses and documents is the way to go in this case.
Just ahead on NewsHour, we'll see the end of the Shuttle Columbia's record flight. The landing site was switched to Florida. And a suburb under siege. In one area of Sarajevo, Serbian bombardment is so fierce, UN relief workers won't venture near. Plus the story of Dr. Mom, a California mother of 4, makes it through med school and into a new career when NewsHour returns.
What an election! The American people are taking charge. They're calling this 800 number to get in on Risky Strategy, the game that's sweeping the country.
I've got California, 54 electoral votes. You may as well go home.
It's not over till it's over.
You win exit poll, takes state from Eddie Flair. Thanks. Big upset in California.
What did Calvin Coolidge do on his honeymoon?
You made that up.
Would I do a thing like that?
The political infighting has been fierce.
What did Harding's mother call him?
Bold moose.
And too bad Pennsylvania is now too close to call.
An election update. The exit polls are in from Texas.
Texas, I just gotta get Texas.
And we can now project a clear winner.
Yes!
Call 1-800-321-2612, extension 12 for Risky Strategy. $29.95 gets you the new American classic that's fun when you're bored with the rest. Call 1-800-321-2612, extension 12. Risky Strategy. It's not politics as usual.
With each new day, you find a way to be your best.
Gillette Sensor for the closest, safest shave ever.
You know you gotta be a little better than the rest.
Only Gillette Sensor has spring-mounted twin blades that sense and adjust to every detail of every face. Gillette Sensor, when you're the best, there's no feeling like it.
Gillette, the best of men can get.
Nighttime backache? Try Momentum Muscular Backache Formula. Momentum has a maximum strain pain reliever to help relieve your backache so you can sleep.
My back feels great, and I slept like a log.
Momentum Muscular Backache Formula.
Tonight, Clinton's running mate sweepstakes are over. We'll get reaction to the Clinton ticket from both parties. Plus, veteran newsman Mike Wallace. Tonight, Larry King Live, 9 Eastern on CNN.
Well, after a record 2 weeks in space, the Shuttle Columbia is back on solid ground. Rain at NASA's landing site in the California desert forced Columbia's mission to end where it began, at Florida's Kennedy Space Center. CNN's John Holloman has the story.
Main gear touchdown of Columbia.
With touchdown at the Kennedy Space Center, only a few miles from their launch pad, the 48th flight of the space shuttle rolled into the history books.
Congratulations on the longest shuttle flight on record. Thanks for helping to pave the way to space station operation.
From its fiery launch 14 days ago to landing, the Columbia crew made space science look easy. With more time in weightlessness and more modern equipment than any previous astronauts, the crew took control of water and other fluids in basic research that may change the way medicines are given in the future. And crystals grown in a huge furnace and at room temperature provided ground-based scientists with knowledge that may change both medical and physics research. The astronauts studied fire safety in space by heating a wire until the insulation burned and the flame formed a perfect circle. They even lit candles, which also burn in a round rather than teardrop shape. This astroculture chamber will eventually be the home to food crops grown and eaten by future astronauts. Bonnie Dunbar has been in space more than 780 hours now, making her the American woman with the most hours in near weightlessness. For the crew, and for many of us on Earth, the best part of this shuttle flight was the pictures. Pilot Ken Bowersox put it best.
Yeah, I've had so much fun up here. The sunsets, the sunrises are gorgeous. The Earth glows a beautiful blue underneath, and I've had some wonderful times with all these folks. I'm going to enjoy seeing my family again, but I think leaving space is the only thing that's been hard.
Bowersox may not get to look out the window from space again for years, But the shuttle Atlantis is on the pad at the Kennedy Space Center and may get into orbit in the coming weeks. John Holloman, CNN reporting.
We had some strong words from President Bush over the war in what had been Yugoslavia today. He told the Conference on Security and Cooperation in Europe that immediate steps must be taken to help the people of Bosnia-Herzegovina.
If our CSCE community is to have real meaning in this new world, let us be of one mind about our immediate aims. First, we should see to it that relief supplies get through no matter what it takes. And second, we should see to it that the United Nations sanctions are respected no matter what it takes. And third, we should do all we can to prevent this conflict from spreading. And fourth, let us call with one voice for the guns to fall silent through a ceasefire on all fronts.
The United States is not expected to deploy any ground troops in Bosnia, but Secretary of State James Baker says the United States and the allies are discussing, and we quote, the possible use of air and naval assets. For his part, Bosnia's president says that's the kind of help he needs.
I asked that the United States and international community, Europe, the United States and so on, that they, in my opinion, they have to do everything, to do their best, to ensure that Yugoslav army should have to be withdrawn from Bosnia and Herzegovina, or their equipment, their heavy weapons, have to be destroyed.
Thousands have been killed in the fighting in Bosnia in the past 4 months, and overnight even the UN's compound in Sarajevo was hit in the crossfire between Bosnian Muslims and Serbs. Well, Amnesty International released its annual report today of human rights violations around the world. The United States is criticized again for its use of the death penalty. Torture in the Middle East, death squads in South America, political killings in portions of Africa, executions in several Asian nations, all were cited. Today, Amnesty's top official in the United States explained the importance of releasing this catalog of misery.
It is our job at the human rights movement to stand in front of government with the might of nothing but our pens, the might of our hearts, and stand up to them and say, no, no, no. Brothers and sisters in government, you have harmed the people of the earth, and we will give you a fair trial, but if convicted, you will go to jail, and you deserve to be in jail. You're not free to destroy the people of the earth. We want you in jail if you have harmed us.
The Amnesty report says the fighting in Yugoslavia has led to violations that include, and we quote, torture and massacres of civilians by all sides in the conflict.
Well, shelling and small arms fire ripped through Sarajevo overnight. Serbian forces continue their relentless 3-month assault on the city. The Serbs are concentrating their firepower on the tiny Muslim enclave of Dobrinja, where CNN's Christiane Amanpour filed this report.
The drive into Dobrinja is a hair-raising journey along sidewalks, hugging walls, seeking any shelter from sniper fire. Once inside, you find a suburb under siege. Even the UN relief effort hasn't penetrated this enclave, barely 100 yards from the airport. Dobrinja's mostly Muslim residents are under constant shelling from Serb forces outside. After 3 months of this, people seem less afraid than numb, carrying on with their chores, apparently oblivious to the din and the danger. But the danger is very real. This day, 4 were killed, 40 were wounded. They come to a makeshift hospital where doctors operate with local anesthetic. It's all they have.
We have very serious case here. You know, every day they shoot us with grenade, with bomb, with there is too much snipers. There is too much wounded from snipers.
The fighting lasts from early evening through the night. Whole blocks are set ablaze. Every apartment is a shelter. Families and even the commander of Dobrinja's militia huddle inside, wondering whether this will be their unlucky night. I'm so tired of this, he says. Not of the war. I can stand that. I just can't stand seeing all our people die.